Hey guys, it's Denver with you here. As you can see, we have the 3 generations of the Mac Pro. The 2010 old cheese grater, the 2013 trash can, and the new 2019 Mac Pro. We're gonna put them to the test and see if it's really worth upgrading to the new Mac Pro. Now, before we get on to comparing these, let me tell you about our sponsor, CinemaGrade. CinemaGrade is a color grading plugin for Adobe Premiere, Final Cut Pro 10, and DaVinci Resolve on the Mac. It offers direct on-screen color grading on the image, Lightroom-style controls, and real-time previews of LUTs. It's even possible to color grade directly on an iPad, and we did a video showing you how to do that. You can see that video by clicking on the card above, and we'll have a link for CinemaGrade in the description below. Now, behind me are the original setups that I've used for the past 10 years, and I've included their specs and prices. The only exception we had to make from keeping them in their original state was to upgrade the graphics card in the 2010 Mac Pro in order to run all the same software using Metal. But that does say a lot about the advantages of having a desktop machine because it can be upgraded, and is why we decided not to compare the new Mac Pro to the iMac or some other setup like the new 16-inch MacBook Pro. They're simply different computers for different purposes. Now, the plan in putting these to the test is to compare how well they do against each other in performing tasks that matter to me as a filmmaker. Namely, how do they compare on playback performance and render speed? I generally like to refresh my computer every 4 to 6 years, so I wanted to know, is it worth the upgrade? Now, keep in mind, this isn't a scientific test. There are so many variables to account for, but at least we wanted to match them as close as we could so that we could make some observations. So this is how we set it up. We have the same project filmed on Red Raw 4K, and we have it set up on all 3 of the major platforms of Adobe Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, and Final Cut Pro 10. So that way we're covering the software that you use. Now, results may vary within the different programs, but it will still give us an idea of the performance bump between each new generation of Mac Pro. And then you can decide if the extra processing power is worth the upgrade. The footage and the project files will run from the internal drive of each machine. For the 2019 Mac Pro and the 2013 trash can, they both have internal SSD drives, and the cheese grater has a 3 terabyte RAID array striped to RAID 0. So read and write speeds shouldn't be a factor in comparing these 3, and it shouldn't present a bottleneck. We'll first start in Final Cut Pro 10. I've got 2 versions of the same edit, one with effects and one without. The one with effects has CinemaGrade applied to the clips for color grading. We chose to use CinemaGrade as a third-party effect because it is a constant that we can use in all 3 software. Now we'll play back the edit first with no effects added. And it looks like all 3 were able to achieve real-time playback with no dropped frames. Next, we'll try playing back the edit with color grading applied with CinemaGrade. It plays back the 4K with the effects flawlessly on the 2013 trash can and the 2019 Mac Pro, but we do get an error message on the 2010 cheese grater indicating that we have some dropped frames. Now that's really impressive for Final Cut Pro 10, and it does show the advantages that Apple has in creating their software to be optimized with their own hardware. Only the 2010 Mac Pro struggled with playback when color grading was applied. Next, onto Adobe Premiere. First, we'll play back the edit without any effects applied. It looks like it plays back flawlessly on the 2013 and 2019 Mac Pro as indicated by the green indicator. But the indicator changes to yellow on the 2010 cheese grater, indicating that we're dropping frames. Next, moving on to playing it back with CinemaGrade applied, it looks like we have perfect playback on the 2019 as indicated by the green indicator. But the indicators for both the 2013 trash can and 2010 cheese grater turns to yellow, indicating dropped frames, and the playback visually begins to stutter. So it looks like in Adobe Premiere, we weren't able to achieve a perfect playback performance with or without color grading on the 2010 Mac Pro. Pro. The 2013 trash can was able to achieve perfect playback without effects, but it began to stutter as soon as the color grading was applied. And in both cases, we're able to get perfect playback performance on the 2019 Mac Pro with and without effects, suggesting that the 2019 Mac Pro is the best option for working in Adobe Premiere. Finally, onto DaVinci Resolve, without any effects applied, we're able to get perfect playback performance on all three machines with no dropped frames. This speaks to the strength of Blackmagic Design optimizing their software to work with all kinds of GPUs. Next, with color grading being applied with CinemaGrade as an OFX plugin, we get perfect playback performance on the 2019 Mac Pro as indicated by both the green indicator and frame rate. But both the 2010 Cheese Grater and the 2013 Trash Can begin to drop frames as indicated by the red indicator and by the reduced frame rate, which is showing less than 24 frames per second. So to summarize playback performance, only the new 2019 Mac Pro was able to achieve perfect playback in all three softwares with and without effects added, as we might expect, but we can at least see the difference in playback performance between the three and see how far the machinery has come. Of the three softwares on playback performance, I would rate Final Cut Pro 10 the best, closely followed by DaVinci Resolve, and finally Adobe Premiere, but honestly, all three performed relatively well. Now, we wanted to test and see how well they would compare in terms of time, namely, what is the difference in render and exporting speeds? How much time does the newer generation save, and is that time saved worth the extra cost? For our render test, we exported a 60-second edit with CinemaGrade applied on all three machines, compressing it to an MP4 H.264 file for uploading to the web. In Final Cut Pro 10, the 2010 Cheese Grater took 5 minutes, 9 seconds to export. The 2013 Trash Can did it in 3 minutes, 21 seconds. And the 2019 Mac Pro was, of course, the fastest, doing it in only 29 seconds. That's what you'd call a big bump in horsepower. In Adobe Premiere, doing an export of the same 60-second edit took the 2010 Cheese Grater 3 minutes, 8 seconds. For the 2013 Trash Can, it took 2 minutes, 7 seconds, and the 2019 Mac Pro only 47 seconds. This was an interesting find because although Final Cut Pro 10 performed better in the playback tests, Premiere was able to export much quicker. Finally, in DaVinci Resolve, it rendered out on the 2010 Cheese Grater in 3 minutes, 35 seconds. On the 2013 Trash Can in 2 minutes, 10 seconds, and on the 2019 Mac Pro in just 29 seconds. The difference between the generations is the most obvious with the 2019 Mac Pro, which absolutely killed it with exports that were 6 to 8 times faster than the Trash Can and 8 to 12 times faster than the 2010 Cheese Grater. And keep in mind, the longer the projects are that you're working on, the bigger the differences will be. So what do you think? For the type of work that you do, is it worth the upgrade? Is the performance of the 2010 Mac Pro with an updated graphics card enough for 2020? Or is the Trash Can more than enough for most pro users today? Or do you really need a machine that can do it all in a heartbeat without even blinking like the 2019 Mac Pro? Let me know what you think in the comments below. For me, I decided to do the upgrade as I tend to upgrade my machines every 4 to 6 years, and I was happy and relieved that Apple was again returning to the professional market. I also don't look at it as what job or jobs do I have to do to justify paying for it, but rather as a sunk cost that pays for itself over the next 4 to 6 years. So I hope this was helpful and that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please consider giving this video a like. And if you'd like to try out CinemaGrade for free for 7 days, you can visit the link in the card above or at the link in the description below. For more videos on color grading and on how to get your films to the next level, click the subscribe button and then the notification bell to be alerted of our next one. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your day.